Draft Mechanic is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Pull up a chair at punchboardmedia.com. Draft Mechanic, Episode 111.
On this episode of Draft Mechanic, we have a Kickstarter preview of the Search for Planet X, we discuss recent plays of Slyville, as well as 5 of the Welcome to expansion pads, which we're putting on tap. We talk about GABF 2019, and we have a quick discussion with Mark Kale, the organizer of MegaMooseCon. So sit back, relax, grab a pint, and enjoy the show.
You've seen the future, and it works to take a mile.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Draft Mechanic. I'm Jake.
And I'm Danielle.
And Draft Mechanic is the podcast about board games and craft beer and anything we can do to tie the two together.
Here at Draft Mechanic, we like our beer like we like our board games.
In the spirit of the season...
Sure, why not?
The season I'm referring to is the different seasons of the Welcome to expansion pads that we're talking about in our feature, because that kind of works, right?
Yeah, and it kind of does fit in with our on tap, which I'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah, and it is also award season because we have the Great American Beer Festival that just happened yesterday. Got the results from that we're going to talk over. So I feel like we did pretty good on that one this time.
Fair enough.
All right, well, hey, if this is your first episode of Draft Mechanic, thank you so much for joining us. You can find us on the internet, draftmechanic.net, or at Draft Mechanic, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those places.
We've also got a Board Game Geek Guild. That is guild number 2470. There will be a thread up for this episode, as there is for every episode. So if we're talking about something and you have an opinion you'd like to share, that is the place to do it. Or at least one of them.
Yeah.
If you happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we do twice monthly board game meetups. The next one is going to be on Tuesday, October 15th at Salud Cerveceria. That is always the third Tuesday of the month. And then the one after that is going to be the first Thursday of the month at Good Road Cider Works. We just had that this past week. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
We also have a new exciting, well, not new exciting thing, but another exciting thing that comes around once a year coming up on our calendar very soon. MegaMooseCon is 2 weeks away. That is kind of our local convention, and we're actually going to have a section of talk with the organizer, Mark Kale, friend of the show, later in the episode, so you can hear about that. But if you don't know about that and you are in Charlotte or anywhere in the Carolinas, definitely hit up MegaMooseCon.com for details. That will be October 25th through 27th, the final weekend of October. Ooh.
Yes, that is the spooky weekend.
It's not really as spooky as I wanted it to be. Do you feel like we need to do anything spooky this year for this particular podcast? Like, no. I feel like we did the scary games one year, and then we did Mysterium on tap and all those things.
We'll have to look into it. I don't think we're going to have time, because we've got some really cool stuff to get to talking about before Essen, so yeah. I don't think we're going to have a spooky episode this year.
Well, I think one of the games we're going to talk about next episode, hopefully, is definitely filling that niche of a spooky or kind of off-kilter kind of title.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it spooky.
Yeah, spoilers.
It's
not
not a spoiler. You didn't tell anybody anything.
I mean, we're going to talk about a game next episode. Crazy, I know.
No way.
Speaking of things that are terrifying, the internet is terrified about the new art for the Castles of Burgundy. Isn't that a great segue?
It doesn't make any sense. The internet is terrified about art?
I don't know. So Castles of Burgundy, classic Euro game that has been constantly lambasted for poor art, poor component quality, and all this stuff, while being a fantastic game. They are updating it as part of the new Alea Ravensburger 20th anniversary line. You know, we talked about Las Vegas Royale last episode. That was the first one to get the treatment. And the second one is the Castles of Burgundy. And just last week, pictures, or rather renderings, of the new board for Castles of Burgundy went up on Board Game Geek. And I think it is safe to say that they are well saturated with color.
Yeah, they are incredibly well saturated with color. And there are varying opinions one could have on how they look.
I think it looks okay. I think it is way, way, way colorful. It is so bright and, you know, just a lot of contrast and a lot of really rich colors, which to me is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but I can definitely understand people saying that it doesn't look good.
I don't think it looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, I never really hated the original artwork. Like, it's not great, but there are certainly worse things that you could do, but this doesn't feel like it makes it better to me. I don't know, maybe it's because they're renderings and maybe there's some shade that is missing on the renderings. Maybe it'll be a little bit more subtle when they actually produce it, but right now it looks like everything is turned up too high and it's not pleasant to look at. The board is a little bit busy for bright colors. It's not attractive.
Yeah, subtlety does not seem to be its strong suit.
Although I'm not sure why we thought it would be so much prettier. It's still the same publisher, right? Like, these are the same people who made it the first time, and nobody liked how they did it the first time. And Alea Ravensburger is not exactly known for their beautiful art and production. We already saw that Las Vegas Royale.
I like Las Vegas Royale.
It's not exactly a work of artistic design. It's
Fair.
graphical, really graphical tiles. So, like, I don't know what everybody was expecting. I don't love it.
I kind of was hoping in a way it would look more like the Digidiced app that came out, because that actually looked really nice.
Yeah, but I'm sure that they don't own that
Probably don't
artwork.
own that artwork, no. But, regardless, this new edition of Castles of Burgundy will have a whole bunch of expansions on it, so it is nice to have all that content collected in one place. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's... I guess if you're a big fan of Castles of Burgundy and you don't have the expansion content, this might be worth it to you. Or if you just never had Castles of Burgundy but wanted to, this probably seems like a good way to get in, but I'm sure we'll know more about that as it releases, I think, probably at Essen.
It is still a good game.
Oh, yeah,
so
still fantastic.
I'm not going to be like, oh, you shouldn't play Castles of Burgundy. It's definitely a great game, and no matter what it looks like, you should give it a try. It's one of those games that I feel like everybody should give at least one try.
Yeah, go find it. Go find and play it and give it a try. All right, Danielle, time to roll along with the Kickstarter updates?
Certainly. First off, we have After the Empire from Grey Fox Games. This completed its campaign at $136,000 of its $30,000 goal with 1,613 backers. They unlocked 11 stretch goals for some cool component upgrades, and pre-orders are available for this on the Kickstarter page now that the campaign is done.
Hooray!
Lots from Royal End Games completed with 13,000 of their $7,000 goal with 535 backers.
Nice.
The Dungeon Master Alignment coin from Double Feature completed with $2,271 of their $365 goal with 98 backers. Keep an eye on Double Feature's Etsy store for these if you missed out on the Kickstarter campaign, because I think they're going to be sold there.
Oh yeah, they do usually pop up a little bit later.
Detective Smoke and Mirrors from Van Ryder Games is currently funding at $200,000 of its $40,000 goal with 2,769 backers. This one is still going on, and it's ending on Tuesday, October 8th, so tomorrow if you're listening to this on day of release. It's about to hit the 48-hour reminder as we are recording this, so hopefully that number is going to jump up, because a lot of people back when they get the email reminder that it's 48 hours left. They have stretch goals planned out for up to another $100,000, so they do have plans for more content if they get that boost.
Hey, go for it.
And Root, the tabletop RPG from Magpie Games, is funding at $382,000 of their $10,000 goal with 4,061 backers. This one has a little bit longer to go. It's ending on Sunday, October 20th, and that is a lot of funding for an RPG. That is well above what they said they wanted, and Root fans are going to be happy. I mean, it's a cool little world, and you're going to get to play in it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear reports about how this plays once people get their hands on it. So hopefully we'll see more about that next year. All right, I've got 3 new projects, and I was really, really excited about the stuff we've got for new projects today, because they're all real small publishers. One of them is actually a first-time publisher, and they're all really cool, new, unique themes. There's no space, there's no trading, there's no, warrior battling fantasy realm kind of stuff. All 3 of these are really cool, and we've already backed one of them, and I'm thinking about the other 2 here as well. So I will start out with a game called Dance Card that is coming from Cardboard Console. This is currently funding. It's actually just passed its $20,000 funding goal with 207 backers. This one ends on Tuesday, October 15th, with an estimated delivery of September 2020. You can back this game for $45. So basically, the thought with Dance Card is, do you wish prom was a board game and also enjoyable? Because this is a chance to do those things. So it's kind of a game where you have a particular high school student that you are attempting to get to dance with 3 of their dance partners, and you're going to be doing a lot of area movement around the high school gym and going to the bleachers and the side rooms and the lockers and all this stuff, and then eventually to the dance floor with some dice rolling and dice mitigation stuff from cards to try to dance with your dance partners. And I think this is super cool. You also have the opportunity to talk to your friends, in-game friends, and kind of they'll give you like pep talks, and you'll get like extra powers to mitigate your dance rolls a little bit better. So it's really like a cool theme with some really interesting mechanisms behind it, and I just love how awesomely inclusive this is as well. The cast of characters in this is fantastic. It's like literally any kind of thing you could think of is represented in this game, and it's just gorgeous art, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
What about a werewolf?
There is a set of Halloween costumes.
Nice.
And one of them is definitely, quote-unquote, Wolf Teen. Not Teen Wolf. That's
no,
copyrighted.
that's copyrighted
yes,
for
but
sure.
Wolf Teen is an option that you can get. So this is a just really cool, awesome theme. It just passed its funding goal, which is awesome. I'm super excited to see this one, and I'm probably going to end up backing this because it looks like what I want to play. Interesting games that are something new.
Okay.
You have any interest in this? Does it sound like fun?
I mean, it sounds like fun. I definitely want to give it a look over a little bit more closely before I'm like, oh yeah, we should definitely back this. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested. It's certainly an interesting theme.
Mm-hmm. So that is Dance Card from Cardboard Console, and you've got about a week left to back that. Next up, Camp Pinetop from Talon Strikes Studios. Again, also just passed its funding goal of $10,000 with 405 backers. This one ends on Friday, October 18th with an estimated delivery of August 2020. You can back this $20 for the base game, and $25 adds in the expansion. This game was formerly called Scouts, and actually, friend of the show, Will Foy, has been really talking this one up. I think he played it at some Unpub events up in Maryland. I feel like he talked about this when he was talking about his Unpub report earlier in the year. So you have a troop of campers, and you are exploring the wilderness, and your goal is to level up your campers to the highest rank of badgers. Not micro badgers, sadly, but actual badgers. Well, not
actual badgers either.
They do not become actual badgers, probably. You're going to be moving your campers around the randomly generated map. You have basically a set of cards that you're going to randomly deal out that will create the forest map. And as you are using your supply cards and getting more supply cards, you will be able to get them badges, achievement badges, that will level up your campers and also progress towards the end of the game. So you get an interesting kind of route building and movement around this grid while also looking to collect specific cards so you can make the right moves to get the badges you need to upgrade all of your crew. And then as the game goes on, you're going to put more and more campers out into the board and hopefully work up some really cool synergies. This is a really low price point for a game that looks like it's got a good bit of strategy. It looks like it's in that 30 to an hour kind of time frame. So really, opportunity to get in and get something that's an interesting new theme. We've had success with Talon Strikes Studios in the past. They did Vinyl, they did Winterborn. We've enjoyed both of those games. We actually did a preview for Winterborn, and we did Vinyl too. Yeah,
and we just got our regular copy of Vinyl in, so they are fulfilling their campaigns.
They get here. That is true. So yeah, Camp Pinetop. Any interest in that one?
Yeah, I mean, I will take a look at it, certainly. I'm a little confused as to how you end up with more scouts as the game goes on. Do you just, find children in the woods?
I guess you're going to deploy them. You're deploying kids from your camp or something. I don't know.
Maybe you're you have a media campaign and more children are joining the troop or something.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Camp Pinetop is on Kickstarter up until Friday, October 18th, so you got a little bit over a week to get on that one. Danielle, I'm going to give the stats and kind of pass this one off to you. Arch Ravels from XYZ Game Labs, funding at $53K of its $24,000 goal with 899 backers, ending on Saturday, October 19th with an estimated delivery of August 2020. You can get the standard edition box for $35 or $59 will add in wooden bowls and realistic resources and a whole lot of other deluxe components. It's a game of action selection, resources, and crafting in the wonderful world of fiber arts.
Yeah, fiber arts means mostly knit and crocheting, I think.
Not your actual job.
No, but art. If you listen to our Gen Con episodes, I got to play a preview sort of setup of this called Arch Ravelry at the time. They've changed the name to Arch Ravels for, I'm sure, very good reasons. But it's a game where you are collecting different colors of yarn and you are knitting together the yarn to produce different goods. Maybe you're making hats and the hats should be blue or blue and yellow, or you're making a scarf and the scarf needs to be purple and red for your particular player color. But as you complete different tasks, you can either get the good that you have made and use that for points, or you can learn the pattern, which allows you to make the goods out of different colors of yarn, so you get a little bit more flexibility there. And you always have that choice between, do I want to use this for what I'm doing now for getting points right now, or do I want to use it to upgrade my abilities so that later in the game I have more available to me when I'm trying to make a big play down the road. So it is a fun game. It is fairly simple. It's not a very complex game, but I think this theme is really going to pull a lot of people in. I know for some reason there seems to be a whole lot of overlap between like knitters and crocheters and people who are into board games. I know that for some reason there's a lot of overlap there. Probably just like, quiet and
soothing activities.
Thinky hobbies where you're focusing on something at the same time. So I think the theme is going to get a lot of people on this one. And I had fun playing the demo that I got to play.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm super excited about this one, and I am hoping some people out there are as well. It looks like they're doing really well. They're double their funding goal, and with almost 2 weeks to go. So yeah, if you are interested, you have until Saturday, October 19th to check out Arch Ravels. If you go to the next page, Danielle, you'll see we're not done with our typical 3 games, because I have 2 things that I want to point out that are both launching tomorrow as of day of release. On Tuesday, October 8th, we will have the release, or not the release, but the Kickstarter project go live for Calico from Flat Out Games. We talked about this one, I think, 2 episodes back?
Yes.
2 episodes, yeah. This one is obviously launching Tuesday, October 8th, and you can back Calico for $29. We previewed this back in episode 109. It's great. It's got cats, it's got tiles, it's got buttons, and cats.
It's got a nice thinky puzzle to it as well. If you're not immediately sold by cats, which is kind of reasonable that you wouldn't be.
It has a pledge level to put your cat in the game.
We are not doing that.
I'm just saying, it does. We could have a cat drawn by Beth Sobel in the game.
We are not.
Okay, fine. Well, everybody else can go on Tuesday, October 8th to Kickstarter and go check out Calico, because I will be there looking at it.
And not backing it for $300 to put our cat in it.
Sorry. All right, anyway, the other one is the Search for Planet X from Foxtrot Games. This one launches Tuesday, October 8th, but guess what? It's time to put on the bump music because we have a full Kickstarter preview of the Search for Planet X. Here it comes.
Want to wear your draft mechanic pride to your local brewery, board game meetup, or board game meetup at a brewery? Check out redbubble.com/people/draftmechanic for t-shirts. So, as you said, we have a Kickstarter preview of the Search for Planet X from Foxtrot Games. This is going to be launching on Kickstarter also tomorrow, if you're listening to this the day it release, on October 8th. The base price is going to be $34, and there is a $44 pledge level for component upgrades. This is coming from Foxtrot Games. It plays 2 to 4 players in 45 to 60 minutes, and it is designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley, with art by Michael Pedro. This is a real hard deduction game about space. Not really hard, just a real hard deduction game about space.
Yeah, I feel like it is always important to clarify when we're talking about deduction versus social deduction. Social deduction is werewolf and coup and stuff like that. Deduction is logic. And oh boy, are we fans of logic here at Draft Mechanic.
I mean, like, logic activities. I'm not entirely sure we're always fans of logic around here.
Well, I mean, like, the artist Logic. I'm a big fan of the rapper as
also
well.
True.
So anyway, the Search for Planet X is a game for 2 to 4 players in which you are attempting to locate Planet X.
No way.
Locate Planet X in the night sky. Depending if you're playing the basic or the advanced version of the game, you have a board in front of you with 12 or 18 sectors. You basically, you have the sun in the very middle, and then you have the pie-shaped sectors coming off of it. And you have a dial in the middle that will give part of that the illuminated side of the sky. So basically you have like half of it is currently available, and as you move through the game, depending on where the player pieces are, you're going to rotate this central board to make different parts of the sky visible. On your turn, you're going to take one of several different actions in order to gain some information about what is in each of those particular sectors. The sectors can have asteroid fields or comets or gas clouds. They can be empty. They can also obviously have Planet X. But there is also one or possibly more dwarf planets that will kind of confound you a little bit as well, because they are more things you have to figure out where they are. Everybody will also start with their own set of information, specifically saying there is not blank in this particular sector, not blank in this particular sector. So you all have some information to start off with, which is important in a deduction game, because otherwise you're just going to be throwing darts at the same dartboard and hoping that you hit somebody else's dart.
That's not
a good metaphor?
How this game works.
No, that's not how this works at all. But anyway, on your turn, you're going to select one of a few different actions. You have the opportunity to scan, where you select a range of sectors in the visible sky to determine how many of a specific type of astral body there are in there. Maybe you want to look between sectors, 4 and 9 for asteroids, and it'll come back and say, you got 2 asteroid fields in there. And you have a little bit of information from that based on the rules of each of the bodies we'll talk about in a bit. You can also target twice a game, you can target a specific sector to learn what's exactly in that sector, which is nice. You can obviously do a search for Planet X and say, I think Planet X is here, and you find out if you're right or not. And then if you are, you end the game and some other stuff happens. But then there's another opportunity to do research, which is just basically an opportunity to learn about one of the logic rules. Maybe you'll learn a logic rule that has to apply to the asteroids, or how the gas clouds interact with the dwarf planets, as in like what adjacency rules there are in this particular game, so on and so forth. Depending what action you take, you're going to move your player pawn, which is I think what they're going to aim for is a stretch goal upgrade of these little observatory standees around the outside of the night sky board. So you're going to, depending on which action you take, move a certain number of spaces ahead. And this game has a kind of Takedo or Glenmore player order method where whoever is furthest back on that particular track will be the next to go. So if you take actions that give you more information, like targeting, you're going to go way ahead. Or if you take actions that don't really give you a whole ton of information, like research, but give you a little bit, that just moves you one, and then you're more likely to come up again next, or maybe even the next player up. So as the players move around the board, that central dial is going to move to kind of catch up with whoever the furthest back player is, to illuminate different parts of the sky. So you always are kind of looking at a slightly different part of the sky as the game goes on that's going to follow you around. So maybe you missed your opportunity to observe a particular sector that you just learned something about, and now you got to wait for it to come back all the way around if you really want to target that and find out that there's a gas cloud in there. The other really interesting part about the adjacency rules is that each of the astral bodies has their own special kind of rules. The comets, for example, can only be in prime numbered sectors. So 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13, and 17? Did I get that? I think I got that. If I got that wrong, yell at me on Twitter. That's totally fine.
1 as well.
Oh, yeah. 1 is a prime number.
Luckily, the chart that shows you where things can be only has the comet picture on prime numbered sections. So you don't need to remember which ones are the prime numbered sections. They just only show it to you on them.
Asteroids, there's 4 total in the game, and they're either in 2 pairs of 2 or 1 clump of 4, because it's an asteroid belt. They're going to hang out together. The gas clouds have to be next to an empty sector. The dwarf planet the dwarf planet can't be next to Planet X, and if you're playing in the expert mode, you have 4 dwarf planets, and they're going to be in a clump of 6 spaces wide, but you don't know exactly where in those 6 spaces they're going to be, except, one's on the first and one's on the 6th space, and then the other ones are hanging out there somewhere in the middle as well. Mm-hmm. And is that all? That's all the things, yeah. Empty sectors space. Are also empty space, and they can exist. The other interesting thing is that if you specifically target a sector and Planet X is there, it will show up as empty space. So you've got to use that logical brain of yours to figure out which of those empty sectors really has the mystical, magical Planet X in it. There's also a few points throughout the game as that central dial rotates that you're going to hit peer review spaces where everybody has the opportunity to publish theories. If you've ever played a deduction game like Alchemists in the past, there's opportunities for you to say, I know the relationship between X and Y ingredients. And it's kind of a similar idea here, except you're saying, I know it's in this particular sector of the night sky, and I'm going to put a theory face down on that. And then as you hit more of those spaces, those theories will move towards the center of the board. They will eventually get revealed, and you will do peer review step is what they call it. And if it's correct, you're going to get points for the end of the game. Obviously, looking for Planet X is kind of a big deal here, and if you do on your turn correctly guess Planet X, you're going to bring on the end of the game. You will score a whole boatload of points, but everybody else will have a chance to either publish a few extra theories or also make a claim as to where Planet X is. If you are correct about any of these things, you're going to gain points, because scoring at the end of the game not only is who found Planet X, but who made correct theories along the way. So, like I said, if you have those theory tokens that you publish and they get through peer review and they turn out to be correct for that sector, it stays on the board, and anybody else who has a theory a few spaces back will flip those up as well. If they're correct, they can stay. If they're not, they get removed, and the player gets penalized a time for making a wrong guess. But you are kind of incentivized to make those guesses as soon as possible. If you are the person who is furthest along or closest to the center on that time track at the end of the game, you're going to gain an additional point if you are correct. So you want to make those claims early, but you also don't want to be wrong, which is always kind of a good mechanic in a deduction game like this. You're being rewarded for taking a chance and using your logic to really make a good claim as to what something is.
The other thing that's kind of neat about that is it gives the players who might not have had as useful information a little bit of a catch-up, because if you make a theory really early, it will be flipped up earlier, and if it is correct, those players will know what's in that section. So, they'll get a little bit of a boost towards solving the logic puzzle because they'll know what's there.
Mm-hmm. One final thing to mention about this also is that the Search for Planet X, all of the logic and all of the rules are managed by a companion app. The companion app's already up on the Apple Store and I think the Google Play Store as well. So we were able to play with the app and it's kind of bare bones right now. They're working on, doing some graphical updates to it, but it's totally functional and we had no trouble at all using this app at any time.
No, the one thing we did think would be a problem we were actually able to solve, and I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later, but I thought the app worked really nicely.
Yeah, and design is super clean. Once you get an understanding for what all the different symbols on your personal logic sheet makes, mean, it really does make a lot of sense, and I found it really easy to use.
Yeah, there is a little bit of spreadsheet that seems almost unnecessary. I mean, you can track not only what you're guessing, but what all the other players are guessing. And while that is probably very helpful, certainly early on in the game, it's helpful to know what other people are investigating about, because when they put down a theory and they've only asked one question, you can kind of guess what the theory is going to be on. Mm-hmm. I found towards the end of the game, I was too busy solving the logic puzzle to worry about what you were saying or who you were, or Are you a comet? If you're not a comet, I don't really care.
And I gotta say, what you're saying right there kind of echoes back to how I felt about playing through this. We played, both the advanced and the basic game, but both levels of the game, I felt myself fully engrossed on when it wasn't my turn, thinking about what could this possible relationship be, to the point where I really didn't even feel any downtime in this game, which is a kind of game that honestly, if you're playing with 4 players and you have some people that really like to think, I could see downtime being an issue just because there's so much to think about.
Okay, I do have a couple of little quibbles, and I don't want to... I know I'm going to spoil this. Jake and I are going to rave about this game for quite a while, I'm guessing.
No question.
But I don't want a couple of little quibbles to get lost. The first one had to do with the early game, and it had to do with the fact that you are gaining information, and you will get a number of planets or gas clouds or whatever that are in the sector that you've scanned. And while that is information that only you have, you are then using a pencil to mark it on a sheet of paper. So, for instance, in one of my early turns, I think my first or second turn, I scanned half of the sky, 9 sections, because we were playing the advanced game, for gas clouds. And I received the information that there were no gas clouds there. I was ecstatic because that cut off half the map that gas clouds weren't in, and I knew they had to be on the other side of the map. But then I had to then mark off 9 little gas clouds, and I was like, okay, well, they're going to know what I just found out. So I actually asked Jake to put on some space music, a thing that I have never in our entire relationship asked him to do before. Put on some space music. But I just wanted some background noise. Later in the game, like I said, you are going to be so entranced in your own puzzle that you're not even going to pay attention to the other players. But early in the game, especially if it's the first guess, you don't have any information beyond your original information, it is something that you really should cover up the sound of.
Yeah.
But you can't play this with anything but pencils, because you are going to absolutely rethink your thoughts over and over and over again. You think that this has got to be a gas cloud. There's no way it's not a gas cloud. And then somebody puts a gas cloud theory through and it's wrong. And you're like, oh, my whole circle is wrong.
Yeah, that happened to me real good in the last advanced game we were playing. I thought that I had the exact range of the dwarf planets figured out. And I my peer review token was 1 space back from Daniel's, and Daniel's flips up on a completely other side of the board, and it's a dwarf planet. And I put it in the app. I'm like, oh, it's obviously going to give me the bad sound, and then it gives me the good sound. I'm like, what in the world happened? I have to erase everything now. Mm-hmm. And then I did.
The other thing that I was a little hesitant on, which actually ended up, this is the thing I said that we ended up finding a fix for with the app, was at first, you really should mark your starting information slightly differently than any information that you figure out from your own logical reasoning. But I know the second game we played, I did not think to do that because I was so concerned about the fact that I couldn't really see my X's on the first round. I was like, okay, let me mark everything really, really dark and it'll be nice. But I didn't mark what the app had told me for sure differently. And I was worried. I was like, oh, I think I screwed up this puzzle somewhere, but I don't know what was actually hard information that was given to me and what was me thinking I knew what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
what we found is they give you a game code just like Alchemist does, and if you load up the app on another device, so we were playing on our iPad, and I asked you for your phone, pulled it up on your phone because you had the app there, and you can actually get your starting information again, which I thought was really cool, because if you are unsure of what you've erased, or you think maybe you erased one of your pieces of information that you should have had for sure, you can always, if you've written down the code like you should have, they give you a space to write it on the top of the board, you can always go back and get that information again, which I really liked.
Yeah, very, very helpful, and we all definitely used it in that last game.
You do just need to know that you can do that.
Yes.
The other tiny quibble that I had, and this, I mean, as we played it, it became less of an issue, but there are a couple of choices that you have if you're doing research. You can usually research the relationship between two things. So, you know, maybe I researched the relationship between gas clouds and comets, and it tells me that every comet is within 2 spaces of a gas cloud. Great. Mm-hmm. There's also the option to just research asteroid fields. I didn't know that because it's not listed anywhere. What you can research is not listed anywhere. There's also varying amounts of movement that you're going to take depending on how big a section you scan. If you scan a really big section, half the board, which is the biggest section you can scan, you're only going to move like 2 spaces. If you scan a very narrow section, essentially giving yourself much more information about where the thing that you find is, you're going to move farther because that's giving you more information. But the brackets of how big a section you can scan without moving it aren't written on the back of the player shields either. And I would like to have that information available to me. They did a really good job on some of the other stuff, like on the dwarf planets in the advanced game. They show you the 6 different possible breakdowns of the dwarf planets so you can look at them and figure it out. But for some reason, the things you can research and these like widths of the sections that you can scan aren't listed anywhere on the back of the player aid, and I feel like that would be really useful when you're trying to figure out, you know, how big a section do I want to scan so that I'm not the farthest forward, so I'm waiting for everybody to go. So those are my tiny quibbles.
Yeah, and I think again, this is and I think that this is a game that is going to be hitting Kickstarter tomorrow, and hopefully that they're able to make a few changes to that. The design's obviously not 100% finished yet, but like the core foundation of this game is super strong. We're big fans of deduction. We talked a lot about Cryptid earlier this year as being one of our favorite games. Alchemists was a big hit. I don't even know if we were on the podcast when we were talking about Alchemists yet, but
I've talked about it. I know a recent play I've talked about.
But I feel like deduction games that are strong don't come around as often as they should, and The Search for Planet X is a really, really strong deduction game.
I think the other thing that makes this a really good choice is if you tried Cryptid and you found it a little bit frustrating that you had to rely on other players, and also that once somebody found the Cryptid, the game just essentially ends. This solves those 2 things really nicely. When somebody finds Planet X, there is a final round for all the other players that allows you to put out extra theories or try to find Planet X on your own. And then the winner is determined by score. And the score is made up of all of the things you've been able to find on the board. So if you've made the greatest contributions to science, you win. Not just because you found this one dinky planet.
Hey, Planet X is a big deal. We've been searching for that thing forever.
But we don't know if it's big or dinky.
No, it's huge. It's probably big. It's probably
cool.
very big.
Don't care. The other thing is that you don't actually rely on other players to provide you with information. So if, for example, on the second turn of the game, somebody misplaced their token encrypted, they have essentially just ruined the game for everybody else. Because they've given information which you can't undo and you can't find the answer based on.
True.
In this game, all of your hard yes or hard no answers come from the app. The app's not going to tell you the wrong thing because it's programmed with the yeses and the nos. Like, if it's a yes, it's going to say yes. If it's a no, it's going to make that really depressing no noise. So you're getting your information and you don't have to worry about the human error issue of getting that information. Now, you yourself are going to make the human error side of that information. 100% of the time you are going to do that.
Well, no, you're not going to get wrong every single time.
No, but I imagine that if you're playing this game, you're going to think you know something and it's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Almost always. Now, you may not run with that information. Hopefully you don't, because you're going to have to back it up. But I think a lot of the time, especially in that advanced game, and this game really shines in the advanced game, you're definitely going to think you know something. And like you were just saying earlier, a theory is going to come up and you're going to be so sure it's wrong and it's going to be right. And your whole world is just like rocked. It's so fun though.
Yeah. This game also does have a thing that I really enjoy about Cryptid is that once the game does end, you do still have 5 minutes of discussing how you learned things and where you went wrong. And that's one of my very favorite parts of deduction games. And I feel like Planet X definitely encourages that post-game discussion.
Certainly.
So yeah, my final thoughts for now on The Search for Planet X. I think this is a fantastic game that does a really great job implementing a theme and giving us a really fun deduction puzzle that keeps me engaged when it's not my turn, which is so important in a heavy deduction game like this.
Yeah, I will say if you have a group that is either mediocre on logic puzzle deduction games or you've not played one before and you're not sure if this is something for you, I might like try just run yourself through some logic puzzles because this is not going to be a game for everyone.
Yeah.
But we love deduction, and if you are a person who also loves hard deduction games, I think you're going to absolutely love this. But if you're not that person, don't buy this game. You will not like it. I will say this is the first like space game I've been real amped about in a while.
I got that space music playlist saved just in case you need it.
I do need the space music playlist for when I mark that there are no gas clouds in sectors 1 through 9.
All right, well, The Search for Planet X goes on Kickstarter Tuesday, October 8th. That is tomorrow on day of release of this podcast. You back it for $34 for the base, $44 with component upgrades that give you some nice little game trays and some nice little tokens. So check that out. It is coming soon to the internet.
Nice.
Our next game is also a preview because this is coming out at Essen this year from our friends over at Hexy Studio. Danielle?
It is called Slyville, and it is a 2019 release from Hexy Studios, placed 3 to 5 players in 45 to 60 minutes. The designers are Dominika Gerasimiak, Justina Leszczynska, Marek Daniluk, and Mateusz Romanach. The artists are Tomasz Larek and Przemysław Gul. This is a game of real mean jockeying for position in a bunch of ways, like you're really going to fight.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe like with a baseball bat with nails in it?
You're going to have some arguments with your fellow players. So Slyville is a game of kind of an action selection on this hexagonal board. There are 5 different districts on the board in front of you. Each district produces a specific type of good and has a specific tile that will be, a contract that you're fulfilling if you go there to trade goods for points because, obviously resource collection, trading for points, all those kind of things. The way it's going to work will remind you of a game like Jamaica, I think, actually. No, Libertalia. Sorry, I'm thinking Libertalia.
Jamaica's the one where you're sailing a boat around an island.
Libertalia, where everybody has the same set of cards that are the same actions, and you're going to place them face down onto the board and then resolve all of them, and they're going to have a whole bunch of wacky interactions and stuff like that. So the action cards that you have a card that is numbered 1, which is Sabotage, which allows you to cancel another card in that particular district where you play it. You have a 2 card, which allows you to move your henchman token that I'll talk about later to that district. You have a 3 and a 4 card, which allow you to complete either the high value or the low value deal.
Big deal, little deal.
And then you have 3 5-value cards of, I think, 2, 3, and 4 coins that you're going to basically, if you have the majority in that particular district, you're going to get whatever goods are in that district. Each round of the game, the start player is going to draw a Prince's Decree card off this deck that is in the very center of the board, and they're going to look at it and place it face down into one of the districts. These cards are basically going to cancel one of the different kinds of cards if they happen to get played into that district, so they're obviously going to do a little bit of bluffing and maybe even just a little looking around the board to see what they think other people are going to try to do as they place that down. After that, players are going to go around in turn order, placing some of their action cards face down into a district of their choice. I think it's 3 for a high player count and 4 for a low player count game per player. And then, once everybody's done all those things, the player who's the first player is going to reveal one by one each of the sectors, and chaos will ensue.
Certainly.
So obviously you're going to have a lot of complications here as players are sabotaging and trying to get deals and stuff like that. There's going to be ties. But what's important is the cards will resolve in numerical order. So the sabotage will happen first, then that henchman token will move if you need it to. The deals happen, and then whoever has the majority of the coin cards will end up getting whatever goods are left in that particular district. At the end of each round, everybody gets their cards back, and then we go back to another round. In the next round, the star player passes one way, the first district to be judged passes the other way, and then the henchman thing happens. If your henchman, or wherever your henchman is, you generate a good of that particular item to your own personal stash wherever your henchman is, which is nice, because then you get to get a little more something in there.
Unless he's on your own player board.
Oh, yeah.
Bummer.
It is entirely possible for that to get bumped back to you, because if somebody moves into your henchman space, they are kicked back to your board, and you get nothing, sir. Good day. So the game will continue until somebody adds up to 100 points, and then that player will be the slyest of Slyville, and they will feel very good about themselves for having done so.
Or maybe a little bit regretful for having been such a shady, sly individual.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how the game plays. I definitely would recommend you play at higher player counts. We had a lot more fun of this at 5 players.
Certainly. We played it at 5 and we played it at 3, and 5 was far and away a better time because there was a lot more interaction. Even when you're playing an additional card every round at a lower player count, I really don't feel like there was anywhere near as much interaction as having more players in the game gave you. Mm-hmm. And that's the fun of this game. This game is about being mean. So if you don't like a mean game, you're going to have to do that if you're playing this game. You're going to have to go in there and sabotage other players. You're going to have to, when you are the first player, you're going to have to break ties. And, well, obviously, if you're involved in the tie, you're going to want to break in your own favor. But if you're looking at the 2 players across from you and they both want to do the big deal, you're going to have to be the one who decides which of them gets to do that and which of them goes home with a big old goose egg. And they're going to remember when they're the first player. And you're not going to get that tie broken in your favor later on in the game, but that's just how it works sometimes.
Oh yeah, this game is highly interactive. You're going to have a lot of back and forth with all the other players, and especially if you were the one in the game group that is the game teaching person, you're going to be feeling the brunt of that at the very beginning and third all the way through the game.
Yeah, I mean, you always get pick on the person who knows what they're doing,
Sigh.
Right?
Yes, it's true. But even with that, like even knowing that I was going to get my butt whooped, I still had a lot of fun with it. It's still fun to flip over those things and see what resolves in what way. And it's also really fun to see like when you get the thing you didn't expect and you were totally unprepared for it. Like I put a small deal card down just thinking, oh, maybe I'll just put this in here to throw somebody off, and then you get around to it and you're like, oh, I actually can do that because of this other thing that panned out for me in an earlier district.
Yeah, I mean, that can happen, but you can also put down a small deal card and then somebody takes the big deal before you get there, and then all of a sudden you're looking at a completely different set of goods that you are not prepared to do and you've wasted a turn. Or maybe that Prince's Decree card blocks doing the small deal or the big deal or any of the deals or the buying phase or the sabotage phase. Maybe whatever you wanted to do isn't happening in that district at all. Sorry about it.
Yeah, and then everybody also at the table is going to know what you were doing and what you tried to do, and they're going to be very aware if you play a card there next time that you probably tried to do it again. Mm-hmm. I did have one major frustration with the way that Slyville scores, and this is something we kind of come back to a lot whenever you have steps of points that are really big. You have the deal cards are basically 20, 30, 40 points, depending on if they're small or big deals. But if you fall one behind, you just kind of are going to be behind for a while. And maybe you'll get really lucky and you can do 2 deals one particular round, but we always refer to this as the Manhattan Project problem, where that if you fall one cycle behind everybody else, you might just even be out of contention in that game. So that is something you've got to be really aware of when you're playing Slyville, is that if you fall behind or if you're, waiting for that really good big deal, you might miss somebody else that just got a whole bunch of 20 and 30 points ones and skyrockets ahead of you, and you might just be out of luck.
I mean, the one benefit that this game has that a lot of other games don't have that have this problem is that there is a way to block somebody from doing the thing that they want to do.
Yeah.
In Manhattan Project, it's a little bit trickier to try to keep somebody from making that final bomb that's going to push them over the top. Whereas if I know that you want to make this big deal and that's going to push you over the 100 points, and I can either try to point it out to the person who is judging and put my card in there to have them try to break the tie. Even if I don't have the goods, I can just be like, oh, break it in my favor so that they don't get to make the deal. or I can try to jump in front of you if you're making a deal that I can get ahead of, or maybe I draw that Prince's Decree card and I see that it says, oh, we're not doing deals, so I'm going to put it into a section that I know you want to do. So there is a little bit more control that you have in trying to keep people from finishing their objectives if they are ahead of you. You also have the opportunity to be working on a couple of deals at the same time. Now, whether or not the other players allow you to get those deals, that's a different question. But you can be working on, okay, I'm trying to get a small deal over here, and if that doesn't pan out, I'm trying to get a small deal over here, or rather a big deal over here, and you can be working on a couple of different things. You also have a secret good that everybody is given at the beginning of the round that you can use once during the game, so maybe they don't think that you can make this deal over here, but secretly the secret good that you have is going to allow you to complete the set that is required, so you have a little bit of control that way as well.
Secrets.
That being said, there is no way to get 3 points in this game. It's not going to happen. You're either 10 points behind or 10 points ahead or tied. It does have the problem that you're talking about where you can get steps behind.
And speaking of steps behind, another frustration that we kind of saw come up is that if you are continually getting kicked out of things or having something tie broken not in your favor, or just basically having entire turns where you do nothing, the game can get really frustrating. There's no kind of consolation prize.
Yeah, and I feel like that was worse with lower player counts. If one person is being favored in a smaller group, it's more likely to feel like you are always getting kicked when you are not getting the ties broken in your favor. So that's another reason to play this game with a full complement. If you can get 5, play it with 5 if you're going to play it.
But I would say even with that, it's entirely possible just out of sheer luck. You'll have turns where you do nothing at all.
That's true.
And if there isn't any kind of consolation, take one good of your choice or get your wild back, it would be nice to have something like that as an option. That's something we see in Dice Town, another kind of jockeying for position in each of the areas game that we really enjoy, is that you have that action that you take. If you didn't win any of the other things, you still have an action to do something that helps you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I will say, if you don't like mean games, and there are a good number of folks who don't like mean games, like before when I was talking about how if you don't like deduction games, don't play Search for Planet X. If you don't like mean games, I don't think Slyville is going to be something that you're going to really enjoy. You have to really like player interaction, and if you do, that's great. I think this takes the mechanics that are implemented, like you said, in Libertalia, where you're all playing secretly cards and they're going to be preempted by other cards. I think this takes that and adds a little bit more to it. You have the different zones, and you have to make sure that you are making sure your resources are available, and how are you going to play into these zones, what's really important this round, what can go till another round. I think it takes that mechanic and adds some interesting stuff to it, but you have to be willing to have that interaction in the first place.
Oh yeah, you're going to have some words. All right, well that is Slyville from Hexy Studio that is available at Essen this year.
I do want to say that we didn't mention the art on this is really cool.
Oh yeah. It is fun art.
It's kind of dark art, but it is fun. I like it a lot.
We'll post some pictures on the show notes, so you can obviously hit draftmechanic.net and check that out in the show notes section. All right, well, it's time for us to take a break, and we're going to come back with a whole bunch of neighborhoods. Just like neighborhoods all over the place.
Nothing weird about them.
No, just some neighborhoods. Don't worry about it. Worry a little bit. Be a little concerned.
Some of them you should worry about.
After the fall of Rome, Europe entered into the Dark Ages, but with the rise of feudalism, prosperity returned to the area. In After the Empire, you are a medieval ruler trying to grow and defend your fiefdom.
Players will gather resources, build buildings, enlist troops, and recruit skilled refugees to both increase the value of their city and fortify its defenses against impending invaders.
Having a more valuable fiefdom yields greater rewards, but also brings more invaders looking to get their cut of what's yours. If they manage to sack, you will lose gold, your buildings will be damaged, and your refugees may be injured.
Whoever's city is most prosperous at the end of the game is the winner of After the Empire. After the Empire is available for pre-order now from Grey Fox Games.
Grey Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted. All right, well, welcome to the main feature of this episode.
Boo.
Ah, perfect. Hey, everybody. Back in episode 82, which was August of last year, we did a feature on some rando writers. We had a huge pile of them. We talked about a whole bunch of them. And one that we talked about was a game called Welcome To. We liked it so much that we put it on tap, and it came up in Danielle's end-of-year recap, and then again in the 2018 Redux. And here we are, yet again, ready to speak about Welcome To. So we actually have a set of the Welcome To thematic neighborhoods that we're putting on for our main feature today. We have 5 different neighborhoods we're going to talk about, and then Danielle's obviously chosen the beer pairings because that's what she does.
That's what I do.
So I will give you the statistics. Here it is. Welcome To, the original base game, a 2018 release from Blue Cocker and Deepwater Games. Plays 1 to 100 players in 25 minutes. Designed by Benoit Turpin, with art by Ann Heidsieck. It's a rando writer of flipping cards and filling houses. And now we have the Welcome To thematic neighborhoods that were that were released in 2019 from Blue Cocker and Deepwater Games. They play 1 to 50 players because you only get 50 sheets instead of 100 in each of them in about 25 minutes. Designed by Benoit Turpin and Alexis Allard, with, again, art by Ann Heidsieck. So we have 5 we're going to talk about. We've got Halloween, Outbreak, Doomsday, Winter Wonderland, and Spring. I did not have the opportunity to get Summer or the Ice Cream Truck expansions.
I do want to say that these were courtesy of Deepwater Games, correct?
Yes, these are review copies from Deepwater Games.
Okay, so let's start with a quick description of what you're doing in your base vanilla flavor Welcome To. You're going to start with a sheet in front of you which has 3 streets on it, and there are houses on each street. The first street has fewer houses than the second fewer than the third. There are going to be 3 piles of cards in the center of the table, and they are going to have a house number on one side and a bonus on the other side. You'll flip over 3 of them so that the bonus part is showing, and then you will have 3 cards which have a bonus and 3 corresponding cards which have a number. You are going to pick one of those 2 pairs to write into your neighborhood, and you are going to place the number on one of the houses, and then you'll take the bonus. There are some bonuses that allow you to circle a pool if the number was written on a pool. There are some that allow you to put fences into your neighborhood to divide them up into little subdivisions. There are some that allow you to adjust the number that you're going to write on the houses. There are some that allow you to change the value of real estate of little sections of your neighborhood. And there are some that allow you to write in numbers that are duplicate of numbers that are already written onto your neighborhood. Now, why would you want to do that? You would want to do that because the numbers have to appear on each street in increasing numerical order, like house numbers work. So if you've already written in 1 and 2 on your first street, you can't go back and then put a 1 again because you can't have 1, 2, 1 when you're numbering houses. That's just not how house numbers work.
That's bad development.
You can skip numbers, so I can write 1, 2, 4, but you can never go back. And you're going to keep going until either somebody has filled in their entire neighborhood, which is usually how this game ends, or somebody is unable to place their third pairing from any of the groups. So you can't place any of the 3 pairs of numbers. The first time that happens, you just mark off a penalty space. The second time that happens, you just mark off a penalty space and take some negative points. The third time that happens, you can't place any of the 3 options. You end the game. And you end it for everyone. The third way that this game can end is that each game of this has 3 criteria that are going to give you bonus points. They are goals that you're working towards. They may be a number of different subdivisions of a certain size, so maybe it wants 3 different 2-house subdivisions. They may be that you've completed all of a feature on a certain number of streets, so maybe all the pools on 2 different streets, or all the pools and all the parks on a particular street, or some combination of those types of things. If anybody at any point in the game completes all 3 of the goals for a specific round, they're going to end that round. Everybody gets a chance to complete each one. The person who does it first gets more points than everybody else, but if anybody completes all 3 of them, then that's going to end the game because they have nothing more to work towards.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. You are going to add up all the scores that you've gotten from the value of the real estate on your subdivisions for completing goals. You're going to get points for having filled in pools on houses that have pools drawn on them. You're going to get points for using construction workers to adjust the numbers. And then you'll lose points for things like not being able to fill in any of the numbers on a particular round, or for using that option that allows you to write a multiple number. So if I rate a 5 and a 5 beast, I'm going to lose some points for using that beast because it gives you more flexibility. So you got the advantage of placing a number on a spot you might normally not get to, but you're going to lose some points at the end of the game.
Beast.
Whoever has the highest number of points at the end of the game, no matter which way the game ended, you are going to be the winner of Welcome To.
Congratulations. You are the winner.
Congratulations.
You've done it. So you're a huge fan of Welcome To already.
I like it quite a bit. It is a fun little really quick game. I like that there are lots of ways that you can adjust what your strategy is. Theoretically, in this game, everybody who's playing the game could do the exact same thing every time, but that never happens in this game. Everybody's got their own different way to work towards what they think they want to do, and there's a lot of sort of weird judgment calls that you have to make, because at the beginning of the game, you may flip up like a 4, an 8, and an 11, and you're looking at this group of houses, and you know the numbers are going to be somewhere between 0 and 17. Those are the maximum that you can place onto the houses, because the cards are only 1 to 15, and you can only adjust down to 0 and up to 17. But where do I put a 4? Is that the second house on the street? Or is it the third house on the street? Or do I think I'm going to need a bunch of low numbers and it's the fourth house on the street? Where do I put an 11? That's somewhere in the middle, but who knows where in the middle? And what street do I want to put it on? Do I want to block a pool thinking that I have the perfect spot, but then I'm not going to get the pool points later in the game? I think there's a lot of really interesting choices that you're making for a very, very simple game. You can play it with any number of people. If you laminate some of these sheets, you can play it any number of times. I love this game. It's cool and fun.
Okay. So what was your initial thoughts when you saw that there was a whole bunch of different sheet pads for Welcome To that added more things?
What is my reaction whenever I see something that
Change
adds more
is bad
things?
and it should be feared.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about these, but when I think you brought these back from PAX U, so or Origins. I was gonna say we're not that far behind. You brought them back from Origins, and you said that you had talked to the folks at Deepwater Games, and they looked like they did some interesting things. I was like, okay,
yeah,
I want to see what they are. Worst comes to worst, we're just playing a slightly worse version of a game I already like a whole lot. So that's still better than
space games.
I mean, it's still better than a lot of things. But I have to say, most of these I really enjoyed.
Cool. So you want to get into them?
Yeah, let's start with the Halloween one, which is the most, seasonally relevant, I would have to say.
Yeah.
Well, one could argue that the Outbreak one is also fairly seasonally relevant, but let's
Zombies
start with...
aren't real. Yeah.
Let's hope not. With the Halloween one. The Halloween... I will say that all of these expansion pads add some new goals that you're going to be able to use in that third goal spot. So instead of just being the size of your neighborhoods or completing parks and pools, that type of thing, you are going to get new goals that have to do with the theme. So in the Halloween one, you are going to have 2 new icons that are on each of your streets. There are going to be houses that have a little ghost and a little piece of candy corn because it's trick-or-treating. The ghosts are the tricks and the candy corn is the treat, despite what some people think about candy corn. I happen to like it. Lots of people like it. Don't eat unwrapped candy on Halloween. When you fill in the number on a house that has a ghost and candy corn icon, you're going to select whether you'd like to do the trick or the treat. You're going to select the ghost icon or the candy corn icon. Later on in the game, if you've collected a certain number of ghosts or candy corns, I believe it's 3, 6, and 9 of each, you can take a benefit based on how many you've collected. So the candy corn is just straight up points. You can either take, I believe it's 5, 10, or 15 points if you have 3, 6, or 9 pieces of candy corn. Whoever is the first to do that is going to mark off that number of points. Now the other players can't take the same benefit that player has already taken. So if I take the 6, you can't take the 6. Even if you have 6 pieces of candy corn, you have to take the 3. You can take a lower value. If I take the 9, then you can take the 6. The ghosts are going to give you a benefit for during the game. They're not just straight up points. So if I take the benefit for having 3 ghosts, I'm going to get to circle one of the pools that I haven't already circled. If I get to mark off 6 ghost icons, I'm going to get to circle 2 pools or get to do, I believe it's Abyss without having to take any negative points.
Freebies.
And the 9 ghosts is either 3 pools or you get to fill in a park.
Or 2 bees.
I think it might be a couple of parks.
2 bees.
Yes. So you are getting a much stronger benefit for taking that higher value, but that means you didn't get any of the candy corn points because there's not enough of these houses that have the trick-or-treat icons for you to have gotten the maximum benefit on one and still have gotten the minimum benefit on the other one. So you need to decide whether you want those points or you want those benefits during play. You're going to keep going the same way that the regular game ends. Either somebody can't place a pair of numbers and benefits 3 times, or somebody has filled in their entire neighborhood, or somebody gets all 3 of the gold cards, and you're going to add them up. You're going to add up those candy corn points. You're going to score it out pretty much the same way that it is normally scored out. This one is fairly true to the way that the game normally plays. It just has those additional benefits for the candy corn and the ghosts, the tricks, and the treats. How did you feel about Halloween?
I enjoyed Halloween well enough. I went after candy corn when we played this, and I think I made a good choice. I feel like I did okay. I liked that I had the choice to either go after raw points or have additional actions. I'm always a big fan of games that give you additional actions if you pursue a certain track. That's just a fun way to do a little bit of a tiny engine building component to a game like this. And I feel like this was a nice addition to Welcome To, rather than overcomplication or not enough. It was a good balance.
One of the things we did notice during the game is that the new rules are on just a single sheet of the size of the fill-in page, and we weren't 100% sure based on reading the rules whether or not when you circled a pool using that ghost ability, you were circling a pool that had previously been crossed off, or you were writing a number in the pool, or you were just circling a pool on an empty house. We played it that you circled a pool and you could later fill the number in when you got the number in that sequence. You just got the pool benefit when you circled it.
Yeah, it's not super clear, and I would honestly, I can just kind of asterisk up front, probably going to want to check BGG for rules clarity on a lot of these if you do pick them up.
Yeah, they are very quick, just descriptions of the rules. We'll get to one very shortly that you absolutely need to know how it works a little bit better.
Yes.
But I thought the Halloween one was fine. I think it was a nice thing if you play this with your family, if you play this with a casual gaming group. I think this is simple enough that you could add it into Welcome To, and nobody's going to have trouble doing it.
Yeah. I give this one 3.5 Mr. Good bars. Fun size Mr. Good bars.
I just give it a ghost full of candy corn.
All right. Moving on. How about Outbreak?
Outbreak actually adds 2 new groups of cards in. It adds your new goals, just like all of them do. They give you some new goals. But this also adds 3 zombie cards. When you divide the deck into the 3 piles that you're going to use to make the pairs of bonuses and numbered cards, you're going to take one of those cards and you're going to divide it into 3 itself. And you're going to shuffle one of the 3 zombie cards that comes with the expansion into each third of that particular section. And then you'll stack them back up so that there is a zombie card in approximately the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. When you are flipping the cards up and you encounter a zombie card, the zombie horde is going to move. Now, the way that that's going to work is on the sheet, there are barricades drawn in front of most of the houses on all of the streets. However, some of the houses haven't built their barricades yet. Lazy neighbors.
Ooh, you'll be the first to go.
They will be the first to go because when a zombie card comes up, it will also indicate a direction, either the left or the right or both. The zombie horde is going to move from that margin to the first space that did not have a pre-printed barricade on each street. If you have managed to build a barricade, which you do by using the fence bonus action that normally divides your neighborhood into subdivisions, if you write a number into a house with no pre-printed barricade in front of it, and it has a fence bonus action, you can use that fence, instead of creating a subdivision, you can use it to build a barricade. So if the zombies move into a space that didn't have a pre-printed barricade and you've built a barricade, congratulations. The zombies don't do anything. They just stop.
The zombies are very confused by fences.
They are. However, if you have not had a chance to build that barricade yet, the zombies will move into the house and all the neighbors will erect fences on either side of the house, and you will write a Z into it, meaning you can't write a number into that house. And your neighborhood now has itself been broken into smaller subdivisions because all the neighbors don't want the zombies attacking them.
Don't dead, open inside.
The next time you encounter a zombie card, on each street, the zombies are going to move again, and they're going to move from where they already were. So if they've already moved from the left, and you get the one that moves from the left and the right, the zombies are going to continue their path from the left to the next barricade, and they'll also come in from the right. So you really need to be careful about placing those barricades on the edges first, because they're not going to get to the middle until they go through the outside ones. You are going to break your neighborhood up a lot by creating these zombie houses, so you are going to want to make sure that you increase the value on your smaller subdivisions as opposed to your bigger subdivisions. The other thing about this is that I feel like we focused a lot on building those barricades. There's not a different scoring that's added on this particular one, where like you got the candy corn scoring at the end of the Halloween one, and we'll talk about some of these other pads that add additional scoring at the end of the game. There's not really a different scoring on this one. It's just you're going to be trying to fight off these zombies and try to keep from, having your neighborhoods just absolutely destroyed and overrun. I felt like in this particular pad, I just was so focused on trying to build barricades that I didn't really do anything else. I didn't have a plan for what I was trying to do with my neighborhood.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Don't like it. Don't want this one again. It added too much. There's too much stuff in here. I got to worry about zombies and barricades and bullets, and I got to, increase all
I didn't even talk about bullets.
Yeah.
When you increase the value of each of your different sizes of subdivision, if you increase them to the point that they have a little pre-printed bullet on the value, you're going to get another bullet. Everybody starts with one. And you can spend one of these bullets to keep the zombies from advancing from one side of one street. So if they're coming from the left and you have 2 bullets to spend, you can spend those 2 bullets and they'll only advance from the left on one street. Hopefully you've built at least one barricade on the left side of one of your streets. But in order to get more bullets, you need to increase the value of another size of subdivision to that level, which means you may be having to increase the 5, and it's fairly far down on the 5, and you're not going to have any size 5 subdivisions because the zombies already broke up all your neighborhoods into tiny little 1 and 2 size blocks. And it did feel really frustrating. That was definitely the lowest scoring pad that we have. And I think we were both just kind of, by the end of it, it didn't feel like we had done anything we meant to do. It just felt like we were trying. And I guess trying to survive in this case is thematic.
I don't think Welcome 2 needed to be that thematic on this.
It wasn't the most fun to play. I will agree with you on that.
Yeah. I give it 1 zombie thumb fallen off.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a weird scale that you're creating.
I'm going to do weird scales for all of these because it sounds fun.
Oh, I know. If you really like zombies, okay. If not, I would stick with the Halloween if you need something for an October pad.
Yeah. Ghosts, they're spooky. All right, what's up next?
Next up, we're going to go to something, a little bit more lighthearted. Atomic Fallout.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the Doomsday pad. This one has some new features on the pad where some of the houses have bunkers printed on them. And you're going to be, obviously you get the new goals, and a lot of the new goals have to do with the number of bunkers that are in certain sizes of subdivision. So the one that we played with, you were trying to have 3 little subdivisions that had 1 bunker each in them. So you're trying to break up your neighborhood in ways that the pre-printed bunkers aren't all grouped together and they're in the size of neighborhood that you wanted. The other thing that the bunkers did is when you wrote a house number on a house that had a bunker in it, you wrote the same number on the bunker, and that was the capacity of the bunker, the number of people that could be saved in it. At the end of the game, you're going to total up the value of each of the bunkers on each street. Whoever has the highest value of bunkers on each street is going to get 10 points for that street. Mm-hmm. And then whoever has the lowest total value of bunkers is going to get 10 points. So you want to be placing high numbers on these houses that have bunkers, but you also want to leave yourself enough room that you can break them into subdivisions and have everything filled in, because you only ever get points for a subdivision if every house is filled in. That is a standard welcome to rule, which I did not mention earlier. So you want to make sure that you can fill everything in, break the neighborhood into subdivisions of the correct size with the right number of bunkers, but also be putting those really high numbers into each of the houses that have a bunker so that you get points at the end of the game. This one I thought was pretty cool, especially after having played the zombie one right before it. This really felt like there wasn't a whole lot going on. Like, I could handle all the bits of it. I kept looking in the front of it and being like, okay, but where do I need to block off the zombies? And you don't, because that's not in this game. You don't have to stop the bombs. You just have to build underground caves to live in forever.
Yeah, I think that this is the one that probably would shine more with a few more players. Like, we played all of these 2 players as we were going, but with the way that the bunkers score, I kind of want to play it with 4 or 5 people, just so that there's more kind of imbalance between each of them. You know, as we were playing this one, it was really easy for me to win a bunch of the bunkers and then score a bunch of points, and then you had the least, obviously, because that was the other option, and you scored the other pile of points. But I feel with 4 or 5 players, there'd be more jockeying and more paying attention to what everybody has on each street, and then those 10-point bonuses would spread up a little bit better.
I think this also might be where it shines if you're playing with a huge group. Like, we've definitely seen big games of Welcome to happen. We played one at Whose Turn Is It Anyway? We've seen Mile High Game Guys do a couple of, like, internet broadcast huge games. And I think that this would be a fun one to do that with, because then somebody's going to end up with, like, a huge number of people that they saved, and you're like, how did you even get that many people on the street? Or somebody's got, like, 7 people in the whole city that they saved, and you're like, what were you doing with your bunkers, my friend?
They got their 10 points. That's all that matters.
Yeah, but I think in a big game, that would be a place where those 10 points would really shine.
Okay, cool. I give this one 3 bombs or something.
That's weird.
No, 3 industrial cans of beans.
Metal Husband?
Yeah. Final Pam joke. What's next?
Okay, next up we are talking about the Winter Wonderland one, which you are going to be placing your numbers into the houses just like you always do, but if you, in this one, place the numbers in consecutive strings, you are going to be able to string holiday lights between any houses that have consecutive numbers. You are going to get points at the end of the game for every longest string on a street. So if I have 9 houses that have consecutive numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm going to get 9 points for that street. And you're going to count up each of the streets and the longest chain of consecutive numbers you're going to get extra points for at the end of the game, which is nice because normally you're leaving yourself these nice larger windows if you can, so that you can try to shoot into the middle of them with a number that you get later in the game. But here you're looking for very specific numbers. And I thought this one was kind of fun. It was just, you're trying to make sure that you have the smallest window possible, because that's going to get you points at the end. But you're also, like, you don't want to screw yourself over, so you can't place a number and you end the game because you couldn't place a number 3 times. Mm-hmm.
This was my favorite of the 5 by far. I think that the addition of the sequential numbers made it just enough of a difference to really make me change the way I played. This is also the one that encouraged me to use Beast the most, because Beast counts as a sequential number as well. So I had, I think, 2 or 3 streets where I said, all right, well, I'm going to have a 5 here and then a 6 2 spaces away. I'll get a Beast eventually and I'll be able to fill that in. And I just really, really enjoyed that. It made me think about a piece of the game in a different way by only telling me, hey, you got to do this slightly different. And that was a really fun treat to get that kind of twist on gameplay there without adding a bunch of extra junk.
Yeah, this was, I think, the simplest of the expansions. All it did was add that consecutive numbers, and obviously the new goals for the 3rd goal spot.
Yep.
So that was fun. I enjoyed it. If you're looking for something that doesn't change the game majorly, this is the one to go for.
Cool.
It's also not stressful.
Winter Wonderland, I give it 5 golden rings. Is that good?
That was
that
excellent.
All right, moving on. What's our last one?
Our last one is spring, and I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out to make the game feel more inclusive than it actually is. This is an Easter expansion pack, for sure. You are collecting Easter eggs. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are many spring holidays where you get Easter eggs. They're very obviously Easter eggs, though. You are going to be writing numbers into your houses, and anytime you write a number that has a circle in the number onto a house that has pre-printed Easter eggs, you are going to be able to mark those Easter eggs off as collected. The difference being that if you write an 8 or a 0, so a number that has 2 circles or a number that has one very large circle, you're going to be able to collect 2 Easter eggs. And there are several of the houses on this sheet that have multiple Easter eggs printed on them. So you are trying to figure out a way that you are writing I think it's 5 or 6 possible numbers in a row that can collect any Easter eggs.
0, 6, 9,
8.
10, 8, and 16?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get them spread out in ways that are not really naturally following the progression of the way Welcome to house numbers need to go. And I think that's what makes this a difficult expansion board to play with. You really need to use those beasts more than you would normally. Jake talked about them being useful in the Winter Wonderland to fill in maybe one space to get your Holiday Light string continued. But in the spring expansion, you're going to need to use beasts quite a bit if you're going to be able to collect all these Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. And you can get a really large number of points because at the end of the game, you count up how many Easter eggs you've gotten a chance to collect, and you'll get points. I think if you get 6, you get 6 points. If you get 10, you get 10 points. If you get 14, you get 20 points.
Woo.
And
It's 18 for 35, and there's 20 eggs total on the sheet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't even consider anything above 14.
I did some counting to see if it was plausible. It was not.
It's certainly not.
Yeah.
But you can get a big chunk of points in a game where I think we both... A good score in Welcome to is generally around 100, I would think.
Yeah.
Our zombie scores, to give you an example, were in the 50s and low 60s.
They existed.
Whereas I think the Winter Wonderland score, we were in the low 20s, but that is one that is a much more generous map.
120s.
Yeah, sorry, 120s, not 20s. So that is a more generous map. The spring map, I think we were in that same zone, but still, 20 points can be a huge portion of your score that you're getting from collecting these Easter eggs.
It was, and I got them. Very proud of my eggs.
I feel like if you are looking for a map that is a thinkier map, take this over the Outbreak map. The Outbreak map is the other one that is thinkier. I would take the spring map over the Outbreak map. However, I mean, the Outbreak map, I assume, is more applicable to folks. I mean, there's a wider breadth of folks that can be like, I'll play a zombie game than somebody who maybe wants to play an Easter egg collecting game. I liked it better, though.
Yeah. One thing I will say about the spring one is that it was super novel at the first time to draw specific, the numbers and circle my 6 over here and the 8 over here. But I feel that future plays, I would be locked into doing it the exact same way because the eggs are in the same place on every sheet.
That's
and
true.
Specifically, like the 8 is kind of in the middle. The 0, there is one that will be a 0. Or it has to be a 0 because it's the very first house on there. I guess you could throw in the roundabouts and, just have that be, that expansion in to make it a little more loose. But I feel like I would just continue to fill it out the exact same way, and it would just come down to whether or not I got the cards I needed on some of those spaces.
Yeah, that sheet particularly made me consider whether I was going to reshuffle more than a lot of the other sheets do, because when somebody completes an objective for the first time, you have the option to reshuffle the cards so that you get all the numbers back into the deck. And if I had gotten a bunch of 6s and 8s and 10s, maybe some very low numbers, I might be more willing to reshuffle. Whereas in a lot of these games, it's like, especially the Winter Wonderland one, you don't want to reshuffle because you want to keep getting different numbers. Or a lot of the maps or the base game, usually I'll just stick with what it is. It's not really worth reshuffling. Whereas I feel like the spring map, it is either much more worth it or much more not worth it to reshuffle to get the numbers that you absolutely need.
Yeah. All right. Spring one, I give a half of a dozen eggs.
Okay, that's 3 eggs.
Yeah.
Okay, but one more thing about the spring one. I didn't feel like there was a really good way to clearly mark off which eggs that I had gotten. Like, obviously, when you write the number in, it should kind of be around the eggs, but that's not the way I write my numbers. Like, my numbers didn't match exactly with the way that the eggs were drawn on the thing. So what I ended up doing is, like, writing the number in the corner of the house and then just, like, marking the X's over the eggs, which is clearly not the way to do it. I feel like there needed to have been, like, a little line there where you can write in the egg numbers or something. It wasn't the clearest thing to demarcate.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is spring. Danielle, if you had to rank them, which I'm going to make you do, how would you rank them?
I think I would go the Halloween one, then the Winter Wonderland one, then the Doomsday one, then the Spring one, then the Outbreak one.
Okay. I would go Winter Wonderland, Halloween, Spring, Doomsday.
You have to rank Outbreak.
Nope. Outbreak does not exist. I mean, it's definitely my least favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. But it seems like there was a little bit of something for everybody in all of that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So if you are looking for more information on any of those, we'll obviously have links for them in the show notes on draftmechanic.net, which is where the information goes. Mm-hmm. But we're not done with Welcome To yet.
No.
And after the break, we're going to welcome you to some beer pairings.
Obviously.
I did it again. Same joke. Second time. For more information on the beers we chose to pair with today's game on tap, check out the show notes section at our website, draftmechanic.net. All right, welcome to... No, I won't do it again. Welcome to the On Tap section. No, hey, we're going to do the On Tap beer pairings for Welcome To now. Welcome To, the 2018 release from Blue Cocker Games. Deepwater Games plays 1 to 50 players in 25 minutes, designed by Benoit Turpin, with art by Anne Heidsick. This is the Randa writer of flipping cards and filling houses with 5 expansion packs, and Danielle has found 1 beer for each of the thematic neighborhoods. So, let's go for it.
Okay, we are going to... I don't really know why I put them in this order when I did them in this order, but we're going to start with Outbreak. Now, I feel like this one is a little bit of a cheat because I really wanted to use Zombie Dust for this, because every time we talk about putting a zombie game on tap, I want to use Zombie Dust because it's the best zombie-themed beer.
We did. Dead of Winter.
I know, that's why I couldn't use it for this.
Mwahaha.
Because I don't reuse them if I can avoid it, and I think I've only reused 1 ever. Mm-hmm. But we are not going to be reusing Zombie Dust, but you should drink it if you're going to play the Outbreak version. We are going to be using Brains Pumpkin Ale for Zombies from Springhouse Brewing Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It is an ale brewed with pumpkin and a touch of traditional autumn spices and sweet dough. It is their late summer/fall seasonal, and it's available in 12-ounce cans.
That's now.
Yeah, it is now. And actually, I joked earlier about you saying that we liked our beer like we liked our games being seasonal. Mm-hmm. This On Tap does lean a little bit into some pumpkin beers because they are seasonal right now.
Yay.
And I do like that they admit on their website that it is a late summer/fall seasonal. But, I mean... This sounds like a really tasty beer. Springhouse, I kind of put on here also because every time we're up in that eastern Pennsylvania area, I mean to get by Springhouse. They have such amazing sounding beers, and we just never managed to make it. It's a little bit farther out from where we are traveling normally, but I'm excited if we are there in the late summer/fall of, I guess, next year to try Brains Pumpkin Ale for Zombies.
So next up, representing the Doomsday map, we have Nuclear Nugget Double IPA. This is from Licking Hole Creek Craft Brewery in Goochland, Virginia. It is 10.5% ABV and 105 IBU, so you're going to get lit up with some hops and some hop bitterness. Mm-hmm. It's an Imperial Honey IPA brewed with clover honey. It's available year-round in 16-ounce cans.
Yeah, when they wrote the description of this one, they're talking about how the honey is trying to contain the hops, but it ends up just, like, being absolutely blown away by the hops. I was like, wow. You have created a real narrative there. For the Halloween expansion pad, we are going with a beer from Evil Genius Beer Company in Philadelphia, PA, and that is Trick or Treat. This is also a pumpkin beer. Like I said, there are 2 of them on this list, and it is 7.8% ABV, 35 IBU. It is a chocolate pumpkin porter with fall spices, because Evil Genius is all about big flavors. And of course, they brewed it with pumpkin, spiced it, they made it a porter, and then they added chocolate post-fermentation, because of course they did. It's available in 12-ounce bottles from September through November, so it should be around
now. Right now. Yeah.
And we've always had a fairly easy time finding stuff from Evil Genius when we were up in the Northeast area, so if you are in that area, check them out. Try Trick or Treat if you're looking for a very big flavor.
All right. So, for the Winter Wonderland expansion, we have a beer from Silver City Brewery in Bremerton, Washington. It is the Wonderland Winter Lager. It is a Bock at 7.5 at 7% ABV, 22 IBU. This is a single bock brewed with 5 malts and lagered for 5 weeks. It's available in 22-ounce bombers. It is a winter seasonal, and it is also from the Great American Beer Festival 2019 Midsize Brewing Company of the Year.
Yeah, when I was looking up for the beer segment, I noticed that Silver City Brewery is the Midsize Brewing Company of the Year. I was like, that's cool. I feel like I'm really confident in this winter beer.
Good job, them.
Finally, for the spring sheet, we have from Evil Twin Brewing in Brooklyn, New York, Ryan and the Beaster Bunny, which is a farmhouse ale that is 7% ABV. It's a Belgian-style saison that's available in 12-ounce bottles. Evil Twin has this filed on their website as a year-round beer, but they also say that it follows a lovely tradition of seasonal beer. So when you see it, just find it and get it. Who the heck knows with Evil Twin, because they do entirely contract brewing. They had brewed this out of Connecticut for a while, but I know that they don't always rebrew out of the same spot. I have seen it around lately. It's a really good beer. I know you liked it when you logged it. I also did, so this is a good one. And you got Ryan and the Beaster Bunny to get those Beaster eggs.
Well, if you would like more information on any and all of those beers, you can go to the show notes section at our website, draftmechanic.net, because Danielle painstakingly click the internet to make those things happen for us.
I'll do it.
She'll click the internet real good. Put all those links in. Brewery websites. Sorry about them.
Yeah, well, there's that.
All right, time to move on. We have our beer segment today. We are talking about the results of the Great American Beer Festival 2019 award ceremony, which took place yesterday, Saturday, October 5th. What day is today? Is today the 6th? Yeah, okay. So yesterday was the 5th, and we have the stats.
Okay, this is the 33rd time that the GABF awards have been given out. This year, they had 107 categories that received medals that covered 174 beer styles, including subcategories. And that's because some of the categories include a couple of different types of beer. Like, I think like the old ale includes a couple of things. That's quads, and it's old ales, and it's a couple of different kinds of things. So they had 9,497 entries.
Holy crap.
From 2,295 breweries, including breweries from all 50 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. They had 113 Pro-Am entries and 70 collaboration competition entries. There were 322 judges from 18 countries that judged these 9,500 beers. Because you can't just have like 4 people drinking 9,000 beers. That would not work. The average number of competition beers that were entered into each category was 88. Whereas if you look at the categories that had the highest number, the Juicy or Hazy India Pale Ale category had 348 entries.
And that was new as of last year, if I remember correctly.
It
right?
was,
that was
because
a new category.
Juicy and Hazy IPAs have been making a huge step forward in craft beer, so they have made their own category instead of just lumping them in with American Style India Pale Ale, which was the second most entered category with 342 entries.
Now, the next few on the list here are actually kind of surprising to me, because I feel like it's the first time we've seen any of these on the list.
I think so. I think that the wood-aged sours were on this list last year, but the third most entered category is Fruited American Style Sour Ale with 215 entries. Now, you are looking at 130 fewer entries in that category than the 2 IPA categories at the top, but that's still a huge change from past years, because sour beers are really becoming more popular, especially stuff that's a little bit less intense, your Gozas and that style of beer. So, Fruited American Style Sour Ales was the third most populous category. The fourth one was also a surprise, which was German Style Pilsner, which had 183 entries. And I think we've been seeing this lately around this area as well, where people are really bringing back that Pilsner, but they're making it in a way that it doesn't taste like, your regular American light lager, which is generally a riff on a Pilsner.
Yeah.
It's a Pilsner that tastes good, and people will suddenly realize they like them, and a lot of folks are more willing to drink them because they are more in range with what a lot of folks grow up knowing beer as.
I'm really excited to see that category be the 4th overall. That's really interesting.
So yeah, like I said, 183 entries. That's a lot. And the final 5th category in the highest entry was Imperial India Pale Ale with 173 entries. So your double IPAs. It's not surprising to see IPAs in this top 5. I'm really excited to see those other styles, though.
Yeah.
Moving on, there were 283 medal-winning breweries, including the Pro-Am and collaboration categories. And there were 318 total medals awarded, plus 3 for each of the Pro-Am and collaboration competitions. Gold medals were not given in American-style wheat beer or historical beer, and the bronze medal was not awarded in Emerging India Pale Ale, which is a cool-sounding category just to start with.
I want to know what that is, yeah.
But they always reserve the right if they don't feel that there's anything that deserves a medal in a specific category, or if they only feel that a couple of beers deserve to be medals, they will not award a silver or a bronze. If they don't think anything was good enough to be gold, they won't award a gold. And I like that idea. Like, you're not just going to give it to the best if it's not excellent. You can't say it's a gold medal beer if it's not a gold medal beer, even if it's the best that you've got. There were 401 first-time GABF entrants and 37 first-time GABF winners among the breweries.
Awesome.
Which is cool. I love to see new breweries entering and just producing excellent beer. And 37 first-time winners of the 318 total medals, that's not an insignificant number.
That's, 10% or so? That's
Around
awesome.
there. A little more than that, actually. The most medaled brewery was Rowley Farmhouse Ales in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They won 3 medals. They won a bronze for Côte d'Or Double Cerise, which is the mixed culture Brett beer category. They won a silver for Agent Orange Apple Brandy Barrel in the wooden barrel-aged sour beer category that I was just talking about a minute ago. And they won a gold for their Meyer beer in the German-style sour ale category.
Sounds
Now-
like they're doing a lot of funky stuff over there.
Yeah, I
Gonna
mean,
have to go check them out.
we're going to be in New Mexico sometime the end of this year, so I would not be surprised if we ended up in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Just somehow. No idea how. Now, is there anything that you noticed? I printed out in very small font for you. Is there anything that you noticed that you wanted to bring some attention to? I know there's some North Carolina stuff that we were very excited about.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised to see some of our newest breweries pulling home medals, which is always awesome. And that just like, it's such an awesome thing to see new breweries get. Pilot Brewing in Charlotte in the Plaza Midwood neighborhood won 2, one for their Dunkelbach and one for their Mimosa Goza. That was a bronze and a silver respectively. Town Brewing Company, kind of new over in the western part of the city, kind of just downtown, had won a gold for their Contemporary Goza for Cruise to Nowhere. So we actually took home the gold and the silver in Contemporary Goza in Charlotte, which is really cool.
Gotta love a Goza.
And then the other one, Wise Man Brewing, that I just ran into in Winston-Salem last week, won a gold for Outraged Daughters, which was their Irish-style red ale. They were definitely my favorite in Winston-Salem, so super cool to see them winning that.
Triple C in Charlotte also brought home the bronze for a citric acid test in American-style sour, which I was excited to see. And 2 of the breweries out Asheville way that we are fans of, Hillman Beer won for their ESB, which they make a very good ESB, and Highwire won for their sour brown aged on Palo Santo and wooden barrel aged sour. They won the gold in that, and I do love a wooden barrel aged sour. So that was nice.
Yeah, and actually going back on that Hillman beer, they did win a silver for that ESB in a prior year. So that is continuing to grow, and good job for them.
I guess it got a little bit better.
Yeah, they're just
It's
like,
the gold this year.
We'll just turn this dial a tiny little bit. But yeah, you'll put the link to the GABF stuff in the show notes, and I would encourage you, go up there and check out your local, check out your state, see what breweries are brewing award-winning beers that you haven't been to yet, and maybe check them out and just let us know in the show notes or on the Slack about what you find out there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. Every year we always check not only North Carolina, we check the states that our families live in. We check like states that we visit frequently. It's always fun to be like, okay, what can I try that's going to be really exciting that everybody in the beer community is saying is excellent beer.
Yeah.
And that's just super good and fun.
And it gives you an opportunity to try new breweries that you had never heard of. Like there's a bunch
Like
of breweries.
Rowley?
Yeah, exactly. Like this little brewery in Santa Fe that's apparently doing the best sours and mixed fermentation stuff we have. So, yeah, super excited about that. But that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I love this segment every year. It's fun to talk about, and if you have anything that you're excited about, please do share it.
Cool. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and after this, our friend Mark Kale will join us to talk about MegaMooseCon. Want a second opinion on some of the games we talked about on this episode? Check out some other great content creators at punchboardmedia.com. I'll bring us back from this break.
Okay, so we are here with Mark Kale, who runs the MegaMooseCon convention down in Richburg, South Carolina. And that is coming up in probably about 2 weeks after you're listening to this, unless you're listening to it far later than it came out, in which case I can't really help you with the timing on that. So, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about what MegaMooseCon is, when it is?
Okay. MegaMooseCon is a board game convention. It is October the 25th through the 27th this year. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday will open at 6 a.m. and will go until midnight. Saturday will be 8 a.m. till midnight, and Sunday will go from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m.
And that's down at the Gateway Convention Center in Richburg, right?
Exactly. Richburg is, for people who don't know, Richburg, South Carolina is about halfway between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina. Both places that have lots of gamers.
And this is your 4th year running MegaMooseCon, correct?
Yes, it is.
So what made you move from, you've been doing these smaller quarterly conventions up to doing this big one?
Just that I felt like there was a need in this area for a board game centered convention, basically. We've got other tabletop, quote unquote, tabletop conventions, and they do board games, but that's not their focus. And so I wanted a place that, you know, we board gamers can come and enjoy our hobby and be the main focus of that event. And we have RPGs at our event too, but they're not the main focus of it. We are a board game convention.
I'd love to know also, like, what was the process of taking from those quarterly conventions up to the big thing? Because, I mean, you must have obviously planned it for a while before you went in with the MegaMoose.
Who plans?
Well,
Plans? What's that?
I'm going to guess, Mark, you planned a good bit bringing this convention to life.
Yeah, I just wanted, like, when I first started the MooseCon, those were because, you know, back then, I think it was like 2011, the one great game group, the only place that we had to communicate then was Google Groups and a BGG guild. And we basically just met in people's homes. And I really appreciated that. And the only like regular event in town was one guy had an event on Sunday from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. like every other week. And so anyway, and then other people would just on the weekends, they would say, y'all come to our house, you know, whoever. And so, I mean, it was kind of cool, you know, that people were willing to do that. But after doing that for about a year, I kind of wanted to give back. I wanted to host an event too. At the time, logistically, I lived out in the middle of nowhere, and it just did not work for me to have something at my home. So at our 40th birthday party, my wife and I, our birthdays are like 3 months apart. Oh. So in like October, we were sitting there at my 40th birthday party at the Moose Lodge in their hall, and some of my board game friends showed up, and we're sitting there, and one of them, you know, it's like, hey, you know, we're sitting around all these 4-foot tables with all these chairs. This would be a great place to have a game event. And so, you know, MooseCon was born, which is the quarterly event. And it originally was just going to be a once a year event. I was going to do it every year, the day after Thanksgiving. So instead of going out, you know, getting in all the crowds, you could come and game for the day. And it was going to be free. I wasn't going to, you know, charge or anything. And so I did it the first year, and numerous people were like, when are you doing this again? Because this was great. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't mind doing it again, but I can't, you know, I can't afford to pay, you know, every month to have this thing or whatever. So I came up with the idea that what I would do is I would host it once a quarter, and I'd put a jar out, and as long as people paid for it, I'd continue to do it. And so it has continued on through the years. You know, I don't technically charge. People just drop whatever into I call it cabbage for the con. And so it's been great. You know, they've really supported it. And it was from that support for the quarterly events that I was like, you know, I think we could support this bigger event, and I kept looking for venues. And if you ever talk to my wife, she'll tell you that she's really tired. Every time I go somewhere, I'm like, oh, this would make a great place to do a gaming convention. And until I kind of settled on the Gateway Center. It's a small place. As far as Richburg is a small town, the Gateway is a huge place to have a game event, and they've added on this year. But kind of the way I came across that is I grew up out in that area. I went to high school maybe 2 miles away from where the Gateway is, so it's kind of my old stomping grounds.
Okay.
And then that's how it sprung up,
So what made you decide to move from that quarterly up to the big convention?
Basically just a desire to do something bigger. Yeah. I just I wanted to have a bigger event.
Yeah.
And to have it, like I said before, focused on board games.
I do want to point out, if you are interested in this, the MegaMooseCon, which is coming up, is not a free event. You will have to buy tickets for it. So if you are looking at going, is there a spot where folks can get tickets that if they're interested in going?
Yes. Our main website is megamoosecon.com. There you can link to where you can buy the badges, which is actually on tabletop.events, MegaMooseCon. And there you can get your badges. You can look and see what events are coming up. You can sign up for events. If you want to run something, you can submit to run an event. This is the first year using that site, but it's awesome.
I should really sign up the thing.
You should. I think tabletop.event is what, whose turn is it anyway?
And Geekway.
Oh, Geekway uses it too. So.
Yeah, a lot of conventions are starting to use that tabletop.events, and it's really nice, and then you can keep everything organized between a bunch of different conventions.
Yeah, it is. It's really great. I don't know who designed it or whatever, but whoever it was definitely involved with conventions, because they pretty much hit all the check marks on
Good. Yeah.
We haven't really talked about it, but one of the things you had mentioned that MegaMooseCon is a board game focused convention. One of the things that's so great about it is that there is just a ton of space for open gaming. You do have scheduled events like you were just talking about, but there is plenty of space that you can just sit down. If you brought a couple of games down, you can plop down and somebody will sit there with you and play whatever game it is you want to get played up until, you said midnight every night. So
yeah. And that is a very... I'm glad you brought it up, because that's one of our very specific points, is that I always want to make sure that there's plenty of room for open gaming, because I think that's one of the things that other conventions really miss about board gamers and the way that we play games. Is it's great to have scheduled events. I have events that are scheduled for all skill levels and ages. We're going to have a kids track this year. I've got 2 rooms in a boom is scheduled at 9:00 on Friday and Saturday, which is just crazy. Party game that does 6 to 30 people.
Yep.
I got a gentleman, Scott Ellis, who just loves train games, and he's going to be running everything from
excellent.
Irish Gauge, which is the newest thing that came out. I can't remember who put it out right now. But it's not a very involved train game, all the way up to an 18xx game, which is like a 3 or 4 hour really involved stocks and trains and all this stuff game. So those are great. But then you really have 2 other groups of gamers. The one group will be people who will come and they have a regular game group, and they're going to sit down at a table, and they're going to stay at that same table the whole convention with the same people, and they're going to play games, which is great because it's a focused environment, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to stop to take the dog out. You don't have to stop to change the kid. You don't have to, stop to run up to the store for your spouse or whatever, So it really does give you a focused environment where you can sit down and get a lot of games played.
Yeah.
And then the other group will be just like Danielle was talking about, people who have a game and don't necessarily have players that'll sit down and they'll break out their game. We facilitate that. We'll have players wanted and teacher wanted signs out that you can look for, on the tables. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing, I hadn't actually made them up yet, but I saw on the internet somebody was walking around a convention that sign that said, I'm too shy to ask to play your game, and please invite me.
Yeah.
So I think I may even do that this year. We'll see.
Great. So what are you looking forward to that you're adding this year? You said you added on the kids track. Obviously, they've renovated the space, and you've got more space as well.
Yes, they actually added a whole nother ballroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our main ballroom will be cut down just a little bit, just because of the logistics of what they had to do. So they've added another ballroom, and the main things that we've added this year are just the kids track is the main event that has been added that we haven't had in past years.
That's awesome.
We'll still have this year. We'll have our albino moose, which is our kind of take on the
White Elephant.
white elephant, yeah. And that's already full, unfortunately. We're going to do the lightning flea market, which will be everybody wants to sell games, but I've found through the years going to convention that nobody wants to just sit there and sell games the whole convention because you want to play games, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I just designate 1 hour. I give people a half hour to set up. We set up a bunch of tables. People pay $10. You can sell as many games as you want, and it goes from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Whatever you can buy and sell in that hour is good, and then we pack it all back up, and people go back to playing games.
Nice. I like that a lot.
Play to Win will be back.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Our Play to Win has expanded to the point that we have a Play to Win room.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
So
That's great.
it's a whole room that's just dedicated. We'll have all the Play to Win games in there. There'll be a bunch of tables set up for people to sit down and play games. We'll do the drawing at 7:00 on Saturday.
Awesome.
And you guys have a substantial library as well that you've had in the past years.
Yes, we do. I usually bring about 100 games, I think.
Just a few.
Just a few. And a lot of the publishers contribute to that. Rio Grande, Yellow. I know I'm forgetting some people off the top of my head.
There's a few.
Yeah, but they really support the convention and give us games for the library. And I also have my own private collection that I generally share, with everybody.
So, do you think you're going to have any time to actually play games this year?
That's always a great question. I'm hoping to get into the 2 rooms in a boom.
Yeah.
Usually by the time 9:00 comes around.
If it's gonna go wrong, it's gone wrong.
Yeah, it's settled down a little bit, and I can get in there, and it also depends on if we can get a few more volunteers.
Right.
If anybody's listening and you want to get in for free, if you volunteer for 2 sessions, you can get in. And right now we're just looking for somebody to run the game library for a couple sessions.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Maybe help with registration. But yeah, I'll see if I can get something in. Usually I can work in a game or 2 the weekend.
You got to play something eventually, right? That's why you started this.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Mark. We're super looking forward to it. MegaMooseCon has been fantastic, and super excited to get down there again this year. Once again, if people want to find out information about the con, you said MegaMooseCon.com.
Yes. Basically, anywhere on the internet, we've been pretty consistent about Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all MegaMooseCon. It's megamoosecon.com is our website, and tabletop.events MegaMooseCon.
Awesome. Well, if you are in the Carolina area, either Charlotte or Columbia or anywhere in either North or South Carolina or Georgia, or if you want to fly in, we totally encourage you. MegaMooseCon's a whole ton of fun.
Yep.
And it's coming up slightly before next episode. So maybe we'll even do some live recording from MegaMooseCon this year.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We will obviously see you in a few weeks.
All right. Thanks for having you. See you then.
I see him now.
You can see him now. He's right there.
Yeah.
We'll see him again. All right. Well, thanks once again for Mark joining it. Thanks for Mark.
Thank you for Mark joining us.
Thank you for Mark. Thank once again.
Thank oneself.
Oh, jeez. Oh, we're trying our best, y'all. Hey, thanks once again to Mark Kale for joining us to talk about MegaMooseCon. And if you are interested in joining us at MegaMooseCon, we will be there October 25th through 27th. Go to megamoosecon.com, get your tickets, and come hang out in Richburg, South Carolina. Play some games, play some more games, and then also play some more games. But I think it is clearly time for us to wrap up this episode of
You
Draft Mechanic. So you can find us on the internet at draftmechanic.net or boardgames.beer. It's a real website that I paid actual money for. You can also find us on social media at draftmechanic, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the places you can go.
We've also got a Board Game Geek Guild that is guild number 2470. And if you happen to be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, our next meetup is going to be on Tuesday, October 15th at Salute Cerveceria.
Yeah, don't forget, also come to MegaMooseCon. Draft Mechanic is sponsored by Grey Fox Games. Visit greyfoxgames.com and sign up for their newsletter for the latest. Grey Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted.
As always, I would like to remind our listeners to please game responsibly and tell them that I'll see them back here in 2 weeks for another round.
That sounds like a plan. All right, let's go. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Draft Mechanic episode 111 was recorded on Sunday, October 6th, 2019 in front of a live studio cat.
Beauty is in your eyes, you are the beholder. You render me stricken. Do not go gently into that gutter line.
Hi, this is Eric Buscemi, popping in to let you know about a continuing interview series I've been doing on the Punchboard Media website called In Focus, Perspectives in Board Gaming. I've been interviewing people that work in all different facets of the board game industry, such as designers Nikki Valens and Daniel Salas, artists Fernanda Suarez and Beth Sobel, board game publishers Anne-Marie DeWitt and Shari Spiro, and many other people with unique industry perspectives. Check out our interviews on the Punchboard Media website, www.punchboardmedia.com, where a new one is posted every Wednesday afternoon.
Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
At punchboardmedia.com.